I've seen many smart, successful people spend over $1 million on a home in Northern Virginia, only to realize a year later that they built a life they actually hate. Today, I'm going to show you why that happens and how to avoid it. The buyers I'm talking about usually are doctors, attorneys, executives, consultants, government leaders, and business owners. People who have spent their entire lives making good decisions. Yet, after more than 20 years helping buyers from the walkable streets of Arlington and Alexandria to the expansive estates in Great Falls and McLean, I've seen the same pattern over and over again. $1 million plus buyers who end up happiest long-term are often not the ones who bought the biggest house. They're the ones who understood what kind of life they were actually trying to build. Today, I'm sharing the specific things I've seen smart, successful buyers get wrong in this market, so you don't end up with a beautiful home that makes your life harder. And if you're currently shopping in this price range, stay with me because I've created a free resource called my $1 million Northern Virginia Buyer Mistake Guide. It goes much deeper into everything that we'll discuss today. One of the most common patterns I see starts in Arlington. A couple relocates from another city, maybe New York, Boston, Chicago, maybe from California. They've heard great things about Arlington, Virginia. They like the idea of metro access, walkability, restaurants, short commutes into DC. So we start looking. Maybe we're touring homes in Lyon Village, Bluemont, Westover, nearby Falls Church. Then we drive farther west, maybe Fairfax Station, maybe Vienna, maybe Oakton, maybe even parts of Loudoun County. And suddenly the entire conversation changes. The house is bigger, the lot is bigger, the basement and garage are bigger. And honestly, it's hard not to be impressed. Because when you're standing inside a 5,500 square foot home on a beautiful lot, it's easy to imagine holiday gatherings, guest suites, a home gym, media room, and everything else that comes with that kind of space. The problem is that many buyers compare square footage while forgetting to compare daily life. One of my favorite questions to ask buyers is, what does Tuesday look like? Not vacation, not Thanksgiving, not Saturday, Tuesday. Most of life is Tuesday. Where do you get coffee? How long is the commute? Where do your friends live? How much driving are you doing every week? I've had buyers tell me later, we love the house, but we didn't realize how much time we would be spending in the car. Or we didn't realize how much we valued convenience. The lesson here isn't that Arlington is better than Fairfax Station. The lesson is that every decision comes with trade-offs. The happiest buyers understand those trade-offs before they move. One of the biggest mistakes relocation buyers make is treating Northern Virginia like it is one place. Northern Virginia is a collection of completely different lifestyles. People moving here often think McLean, Arlington, Alexandria, Falls Church, Vienna. What's the difference? The difference can be enormous. Let's take Arlington. Living in Clarendon is not the same as living in Country Club Hills. And living near Ballston is not the same as living near Donaldson Run. The same thing applies to Alexandria, Old Town, Delray, Belhaven, Kingstown, Rosemont. These are all Alexandria addresses, but they feel completely different. That's why I often tell buyers that a neighborhood is a social ecosystem, not just a collection of houses. That's something that does not show up on Zillow. To see how this works in Northern Virginia, let's take a look at how the exact same $1.5 million budget can buy you a completely different life depending on where you land. At $1.5 million in Arlington, you're often not buying the biggest house. You're buying convenience. You might get a renovated colonial, a newer townhome, a smaller detached home. But what you're really buying is access, metro, restaurants, coffee shops, the airport, trails, friends, your time. In Arlington, your Saturday morning might be coffee in Clarendon, a walk on the Custis Trail, lunch in Ballston, dinner in DC without ever getting on I-66. I've lived in Roslyn. I've spent years in Ballston. I attended law school in Virginia Square. I've watched Arlington transform dramatically over the years. For many buyers, Arlington isn't about maximizing house. It's about maximizing their life outside the house. Now, Take that same budget to McLean. You often get more house with a larger lot and more privacy. Excellent schools, proximity to Tyson's. McLean attracts executives, attorneys, diplomats, and business owners for good reason. Many relocation buyers decide they want McLean before they've ever visited Northern Virginia. The name itself carries prestige. So the question becomes, do you actually want the lifestyle or do you like the reputation? Falls Church may be the most balanced lifestyle in Northern Virginia. At $1.5 million in Falls Church, you can often find a newer detached home, a renovated colonial, good schools, and a location that keeps you close to Arlington, close to Tyson's, and Alexandria. What many buyers love about Falls Church is that it avoids extremes. You don't have to sacrifice everything for one priority. You get a little bit of space, convenience, and community, plus some walkability. It's one reason so many buyers remain happy there long term. Now, if you're thinking, Brian, I just want the most land possible, then we have to talk about Great Falls. But it comes with a catch. Great Falls offers something increasingly rare in Northern Virginia: room, large lots, privacy, estate-style living, beautiful wooded settings. For the right buyer, it's fantastic. In Great Falls, your Saturday might be coffee on your back patio, overlooking 2 acres of trees, while deer walk through the yard. However, space has consequences. Longer drives, more maintenance, more landscaping, and more responsibility. The same property that feels luxurious on Saturday can feel like work on Tuesday. Again, not bad, just a trade-off. Old Town Alexandria buyers are often purchasing something that doesn't show up in the tax record: the experience. At this price, you may get a smaller house than you would elsewhere, but you gain restaurants, waterfront walks, community events, architecture, history, and character. I've worked with buyers who realized that walking to dinner on a Wednesday night mattered more than another 1,500 square feet. So the key lesson: none of these choices are objectively better. They're answers to different questions. The mistake happens when buyers assume everyone should want the same answer. Now, there's one more mistake I see, and it's actually made by the smartest people I work with. I call it the success tax. Highly successful people often assume they can outthink real estate. They're used to making good decisions, they're used to solving complicated problems, and they're used to being right. But buying a house is different because houses are emotional. I've seen attorneys negotiate multi-million-dollar contracts and become emotionally attached to a breakfast nook. I've seen engineers become obsessed with spreadsheets while ignoring lifestyle concerns. The issue is assuming intelligence protects you from emotion. One executive I worked with built elaborate spreadsheets evaluating appreciation potential, demographics, school performance, and future development. Finally, I asked him a simple question: which house are you excited about? He laughed. We'd spent weeks analyzing homes and never discussed that question. The answer was obvious once we talked about it, and it wasn't the house that scored highest on his spreadsheet. Now, let's talk about prestige. Before they ever arrive, some buyers have already decided where successful people are supposed to live. McLean, Great Falls, certain parts of Vienna, certain parts of Arlington. Again, these are all excellent places for the right buyer. But I have seen people chase prestige rather than fit. One family initially insisted on focusing almost exclusively on McLean. But as we toured homes, something became obvious. The places they got excited about weren't actually in McLean. They loved Old Town Alexandria, Del Rey. They loved waterfront walks, King Street, and neighborhood restaurants. They loved community events. Their emotional reaction kept pointing in one direction, while their assumptions pointed somewhere else. Eventually, they bought much closer to the lifestyle that they actually enjoyed. And years later, they're still happy. The lesson is that your emotional reactions often tell the truth before your assumptions do. Now, let's talk about one of the most powerful forces in Northern Virginia real estate: school rankings. And let me be clear right from the start: schools matter. If you have children or plan to have children, school quality should absolutely be part of your decision-making process. Some buyers become so focused on school rankings, however, that they stop evaluating everything else. I've watched buyers compare school pyramids the way investors compare stock charts. Langley, McLean, Madison, Yorktown. People spend months researching rankings, test scores, and online reviews. It sometimes creates what I call the school pyramid arms race. A buyer finds a neighborhood they love, everything feels right, and then they discover another school pyramid that ranks just slightly higher somewhere online. Suddenly, they're willing to spend another $150,000 or $200,000, add 20 minutes to the commute, and sacrifice several lifestyle advantages chasing what may be a relatively small difference in day-to-day educational experience. Now, when we're talking about your children, nobody wants regrets. However, the happiest families rarely optimize for only one thing. They don't ignore schools, but they don't ignore everything else either. They consider the entire picture. One family I worked with spent months debating between two highly rated school pyramids. The discussions became almost obsessive. Eventually, they made a decision and moved forward. The things that ended up shaping their family's happiness weren't the tiny ranking differences that they had worried about during the home search. It was the neighborhood friends, nearby activities, and the shorter drive home. Again, schools matter, but don't let a ranking become so important that it crowds out everything else that makes a house feel like home. But even if you find the perfect school and the perfect neighborhood, there's one more reality check you need to have, and it's about the house itself. One of the biggest misconceptions at the $1 million level is that expensive homes are easier. Sometimes they're actually harder. A large home in Great Falls might have a well, a septic system, a long driveway. It may have large retaining walls, extensive landscaping, multiple HVAC systems, custom windows, and complex drainage systems. These aren't deal breakers, but they are silent partners in your mortgage that you need to be ready to fund. Nobody gets excited about their drainage system until it fails. Some older McLean homes have tremendous locations, incredible lots, but you might be inheriting systems that may be 20 or 30 years old. That charming 1920s Old Town row house may have plumbing that's older than your parents. The problems simply become more expensive. One of the most dangerous assumptions buyers make is confusing the beautiful finishes with good maintenance. It's not the same thing. A stunning kitchen tells you very little about what's happening behind the walls. And that's why home inspections become even more important as prices rise, not less. After more than 20 years, I've noticed that the happiest buyers rarely maximize every single category. They don't get the biggest lot, the shortest commute, the best schools, newest house, lowest maintenance. Nobody gets all of those. Instead, the happiest buyers understand trade-offs. One family chooses Arlington because they value convenience. Another chooses McLean because they value schools and privacy. And yet another chooses Falls Church because they value balance. A family may choose Old Town because they value walkability. The happiest buyers are not chasing perfection. They find a house and neighborhood that aligns with their lifestyle, routines, and goals. That's what creates long-term satisfaction. Not the biggest house, not the flashiest address, not the most impressive listing photos. If there's one lesson I would leave you with, it's this. The best house isn't the one that impresses your friends and colleagues. It's the one that quietly makes your life better every day. If you'd like a copy of my free $1 million Northern Virginia Buyer Mistake Guide, reach out to me at brian@brianblock.com and I'll send it over. And if you're considering a move anywhere in Arlington, Alexandria, Falls Church, McLean, Vienna, Great Falls, or anywhere in Northern Virginia, I would be more than happy to help.